Hello, friends. Welcome to episode 101, like the Dalmatians, of the Note Coach podcast. I'm your host, Suzanne Kohlberg, joined once more by the amazing Heather Tobin. And today we are talking about effortless, not effort none. And I think so often we think it's going to take a lot of effort to do whatever the thing is. Like sometimes even the littlest thing feels like a lot of effort. Yet we crave effortless, like I want it to be easy and effortless. People often use that as an affirmation or whatever. But what in life really is effortless? Like far out. I'm getting towards the age where getting out of bed isn't even effortless. But like, I don't know. What is effortless to you, Heather? I'm curious.
It just feels easy. It feels easy. It feels like it's in flow. It feels like it's not an energy suck, and that it's more of something that's going to fill me up rather than drain me.
I love that. But effortless doesn't mean effort none. So say, for example, us recording the show is effortless. What are we going to talk about? I don't know. Let's see where it goes. Effortless. We're going to do something and we're going to enjoy it. And at the end of it, we'll feel amazing. And hopefully other people will listen and take something from it. But if not, they might be like, oh, those two crazy bitches, never tune into them again. But effort none is, I think, leading into perfectionism. Like until I have it scripted, or until I know exactly what we're going to talk about, or until I have the through line, or like, oh, I know where we can go with this. I'm throwing you under the bus here. You might be like, nope, hit stop. Let's talk about elevator pitches. Like, I know you just said on the last episode, oh, don't make me do an elevator pitch or I won't do one. That has a lot of what's the word I'm looking for? Like dense energy, elevator pitch, nascent eye roll. And then when you think about the origin of an elevator pitch, if you're in a literal elevator with someone, you've got a captive audience. They can't get away. I can just imagine them going, move faster, move faster. Holy shit, the thing's broken down. But you do want to convey to people who are interested what it is that you do and how you could benefit from potentially working together. So how could we take an elevator pitch, which sounds like a whole lot of effort and we have to trap people into listening to us, and make that effortless?
So, without getting into 3 days worth of context as to why I detest elevator pitches, I think to make it effortless is to just honestly speak from the heart in that moment rather than having something scripted and memorized. I mean, obviously there's going to be key points that are always said. Like I always say, I'm an intuitive healer. I always say I'm an energy worker. I always say, I'm, for simple terms, for context, I'll say I'm a life coach, or I can help you with business coaching. I think I'm just done with trying to have this perfected script. I don't even have business cards anymore because what's the point? We're not handing them out to anybody.
What even if you had them? I love Tad Hargrave used to say, will you put it in the bin or will I? Like,
yeah.
And I think underpinning that for me, and you can disagree and we can have a lively discussion, there is a point of genuine interest. Like if you listen to someone speak or you meet someone and you're genuinely, can't even bloody English today, curious about what it is that they do, if they give you some whitewashed, well-rehearsed, you can hear like the tone of someone's voice when they're giving you something that they've memorized versus when they're like, oh, yeah, well, I do a bit of energy healing. Oh, cool, what does that mean? And it becomes a back and forth and an invitation to discuss, not I'm a certified in this and I help, I help blah, do blah, like the through line thing. And then some people are like, well, what even is that? But then they don't want to ask because it sounds so polished that you feel like, well, I should just know. Oh, that sounds nice. What do you want for lunch?
Yeah. And I think creating the spaciousness for an honest dialogue feels safer to people. Because when you come across the way you just beautifully described that pitch, that line through is, wow, if I don't understand what they're talking about, how stupid do I look?
Exactly.
And that is that not like the opposite thing we're trying to do?
We want to invoke
connect,
curiosity where they ask more. We're not trying to make them feel stupid.
Yeah. And I think that there's a time and a place, and you and I have had these conversations for years now. There's a time and a place where it's important to spend time working on things like that and understanding. Like, if you were in an elevator and someone asked you, so what do you do? What would you say? Like, if you've got nothing, then that's probably a good place to start to think about and start brainstorming, etc. But also knowing that it's allowed to change and morph over time as you, I want to even say, begin to find your language, because a lot of things with business too, we evolve and different things make sense and different things land as we grow and as we have new education and understanding and training or whatever. And I think sometimes people get so they hook their wagon to this train of this idea, but then something feels off with it, or they come out of alignment with it, and they're kind of like, oh, maybe I need to change my website. It's like, no, hang on a second. Like, let's have a conversation. Like, how do you feel about what you're telling people what you do? And if it feels effort filled, because let's add a new phrase into the mix, maybe you need to simplify things. Maybe you need to really connect with the spirit of what the language is that you're using. And does it still feel true to you?
Yes. And I love that. And moving on from that, but in a similar vein, when someone has an opportunity, like when you see that they have, say they're doing a TED talk, like, you know, they've signed up for TEDx, or they're on a summit, or I don't know, they're doing something, and we can look at that and go, oh, the opportunities always come to them. Everything always works. Everything's so easy, you know. That wasn't effort none. TEDx very rarely. I'm sure there's exceptions for people like Oprah or whatever, but apart from that, you apply. Like, you go to their website, you look what the guidelines are, you pitch a topic. The same with the summit. Like, there is some efforting required. And, you know, it's effortless as in, like, say I was going to apply for it. I know the topics that I like to talk on. I know the things I have experience on. Putting together the pitch wouldn't be that hard, just making sure I fulfill the guidelines. But I think so often we assume or think that some people have some sort of magic or luck, that these things fall in their lap. And it's like, you know, there is some efforting required. Very rarely do things just turn up at the door and go, hey, I've been looking for you. That's no, like, you know, even in business or something, you know, as you and I've talked about before, and I've had other guests on the podcast, you don't have to have a website. Like, you don't have to have shit, but you do have to have something, because people don't just, you know, if no one knows what you do, and some people do well with business cards, and some people do well with websites, and some people do podcasts, and some people do YouTube. And like, there's a recent app, Threads, that's just launched. Like, how long until it'll be how to be a Threads influencer? I bet you it won't be long. But it's like, but they all require some form of efforting, but doesn't have to be strained or strenuous or hard or feel shitty.
Yeah. And I think for me, the thing about effort is, what's the ROI?
Return on investment, for anybody who's not familiar with the phrase.
And is it going to feel life-giving? Or is it going to feel like, oh my God, what have I gotten myself into?
So I can give a personal example. In-person networking events, the return on investment, the ROI for me, is never enough. Like, I was just chatting to a person just today, actually, and she was saying, oh, but you could get better and you could do this. And I'm like, I am highly capable. Makes me want to die inside. Like, I don't enjoy it. But I could Facebook Live or YouTube Live. I could record videos every which way to Sunday, because I don't have people in my energy field, like in my space. Someone who's not an empath is not going to understand that. They're going to feel more enlivened. They're going to feel disconnected, potentially, by the screen. So, but what is it, make a list. And I think we're coming up to time, but for anyone, what is effortless for you that's going to take you closer to your goal? Because if you think, well, I can't lose weight unless I do CrossFit, and the idea of, sweating that much, I'd rather just be fat forever. It's not the only way that you can get fit. If you're making a business, you don't have to go to in-person networking events. So my encouragement for everyone, whatever your goal is, like write that down so you know what you're working towards. Because if you don't know where you're going, how you know when you're going to get there? And the second part is, what are things that you could do that are effortless, as in you might actually enjoy rather than draining, and start to do those things.
I like it. That's
Anything else to add, Heather, before we wrap up? Pardon?
I said that's some good coaching there, Miss Kalberg.
Well, I thank you. Thank you so much for joining me again, Heather, and let the listeners know today's version. What do you do and where can they find you?
So I am an intuitive healer, energy worker, psychic guide, spiritual counselor, whatever flavor of the week I happen to be on that day. And I can be found on Facebook, Instagram, and all places of social media at theheathertobin.com. So the THE Heather, traditionally HEATHER, Tobin, TOBIN. And my website is heathertobin.ca because I'm in Canada.
I love it. Thank you so much for joining me, Heather. And for everyone listening, what did you take away from this? Where have you been potentially over efforting and you could make it effortless? Comment on the video on YouTube and let us know. Bye for now.